Hey everybody, welcome to the broadcast. Excited to have you here today. Not quite as excited as I am for this panel of guests that I have with me today. I literally got onto a pre-framing call the other day with this panel of people, and Asta, the gal who sets it up for me, pretty much blew my mind because I was on there and I was like, wait a minute, I know all these people. And like sometimes she'll go out and find people to do the broadcast with us, and it's my first time meeting them sometimes on the pre-framing call or even hearing about them. Not this time. I'm in a zone right now where I cannot wait to have the conversations that we are about to have. We have a panel of 4 guests with us today. I'll introduce you to everyone here in just a second, but I want you to kind of sit there and prepare your mind to be blown, because some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, and also prepare your mind to keep it open for those of you who don't want it blown 100%. But at least keep it open, because there's some pretty deep thinkers on this panel, all very well spoken, and people you should be listening to. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring the panel on, and just to give you a little clue in about what we're focusing on before I do that. Number one, you know, as a lot of you know, I myself have sort of got into lucid dreaming in the first place because of the passing of my mom, Linda. And, you know, that was obviously anybody loses a loved one, but specifically their mother, it can be kind of a strong psychic blow. And, you know, I had the lucid dream about her where I saw her under, about 2 weeks after she passed, where I saw her under this big giant oak tree, and then I didn't actually control or change that dream, and then I was like, man, I want to go back to that same place. And so that was a sort of an afterlife experience when I'm not the type of person who typically has those kinds of experiences. And then that all led to, you know, all the stuff that I've sort of manifested and the people that I've manifested into my life through my lucid dreaming practice. So that's the kind of panel we have on here today. I want to talk about connecting to other planes of existence or other realities, slices of reality, a specific focus on afterlife connections through dreams and lucid dreaming. And then also the power of manifestation that I think a properly executed and well-maintained lucid dreaming practice can actually grant you. So again, now without any further ado, let's go ahead and let me grab my little pamphlet here of who everyone is. We have 4 people with us today. First of all, I'll start from the very Aaron Langley is number 1. Then we also have Jennifer, whose name actually I should have asked how you pronounce it. Jen, how do you pronounce your name?
There's no rules to how to pronounce it. It can be claroscura or claroscura.
Claroscura, I like that better. And then also Nick Barrett is also here with us, and the inimitable Robert Wagner. I'm sure if you've been lucid dreaming for any time at all, you've seen Robert's work. You've probably read his work. So I'm excited to have all these people here with me today. And I'm going to just hit on each one of you. So we'll start with Aaron first, if we could, Troy, and just kind of talk about your background, how you got into lucid dreaming, and then sort of what your special twist is on lucid dreaming. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah. So I bring a cultural perspective to lucid dreaming. Probably my people wouldn't have called it lucid dreaming, or maybe they wouldn't even had a term for it. I just see dreaming as life and as an aspect of life. I identify strongly with my Celtic heritage and indigenous heritage, and dreaming picked me. Since I was a kid, I've had unusual experiences, and as a teenager and adolescence, this is a common story, I started having out-of-body experiences and visions and lucid dreams. And that has sort of culminated in working with my clients from the dream world and receiving information about my clients and patients from the dream world. Really, the worlds are very porous for me, so I hear from the dead a lot. And I just really nourish the garden of my dreaming so it flourishes naturally. Excellent,
excellent. Well, I'm going to circle back around and sort of hit each one of you guys with a question about what you talk about, but I just want to introduce everybody to the audience that's watching. There are quite a few people on right now, actually. So, Jen, you want to step up and give your backdrop and let us know how you got into it and what your spin is?
Sure. I grew up in a household where dreaming, psychic abilities, and telepathy, out-of-body experiences was kind of normal. And I got in trouble in school a lot because I would talk about it and show and tell and, you know, be mocked at. So once I finally grew to the awareness that it wasn't something that common, especially back in the 80s, you know, I began to read, and that's when I began to explore other people's experiences and expand my own awareness. And lucidity was something that, like Aaron, I didn't have a name for it. I just realized later that it was called lucid dreaming, to wake up in your dream. I learned all the terminology in books, and I was like, oh, that's what that thing that I was doing was, you know. So it was kind of funny to go backwards in that sense. Eventually I got very interested in studying hypnotherapy to further explore, you know, the subconscious, conscious awareness, and to connect people with their dreamer. And that's pretty much what I do.
Excellent, excellent. This is going to be so good. Nick, take the floor, my friend. Take the floor.
Well, for me, I was a musician for 15 years, trying to make it in the music industry as an R&B superstar. And I didn't get very far. I had a few close shaves of getting a possible record deal, but it brought a lot of turmoil for me. So in the end, I just gave it up. I just thought, you know what, there must be more to life. I decided to do a complete 360, change my whole life around. And I went traveling for a few years with my partner, and picked up a few books on lucid dreaming because I began to really focus on my dreams, just intuitively, I guess. And they just brought me so much information at the time, and it's kind of like a therapeutic aid to help me through that very difficult time. And then throughout that experience of traveling, I stumbled upon a dream character, which I now call my spirit guide, who I frequent with in the other realms, and we've had adventures, and that's kind of been the basis and inspiration of all my research, really, just delving into dream characters and spirits, and noticing any similarities between them two, and how they can benefit my life and what I can bring back to this waking reality. So yeah, and then I wrote the book, and yeah, it's been a wonderful journey, and it's my life now.
What's your book called, Nick?
Spirit Guided Lucid Dreaming.
Spirit Guided Lucid Dreaming. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent.
I also have an e-series as well called Dreamscape.
All right. All right. Everybody, feel free to mention your stuff on it. These videos tend to get around, get traction. I'm always happy to whatever I can do to help. Everybody knows this about me, to help promote the idea that this is not only a viable practice, but an immensely, I think, almost superior practice to a lot of other parapsychological activities. I'm always for. So let's hit Robert Wagner, please, sir. Speak your mind, and then we'll begin the discussion.
Thanks for the invitation, Mars. So I'm Robert Wagner. Back in 1975, I taught myself how to lucid dream when I was a junior in high school, and it was kind of curious because back then the evidence for lucid dreaming didn't even appear until 1980 and 1981. So the great thing about it at that stage is you have to learn all the principles yourself. You have to explore, figure it out, learn all those lessons in lucidity. And so after about 20 years of lucid dreaming, I decided to try to go beyond lucid dreaming. And so the depth of lucid dreaming, as anyone who reads my book, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, will discover, is truly profound, utterly profound. But in that book, I tried to bring out how you can use lucid dreaming for emotional healing. You can use it for physical healing. You can engage the deceased, interact with the deceased dream figures. You can explore the nature of the psyche and see how reality is, in many ways, co-created by the waking self and the larger awareness working together. So anyway, it's great to be here, and I just love lucid dreaming. I've just dedicated the rest of my life to it.
Excellent. So good. Now that everyone is kind of set up and we have an idea of what everybody's about, I'm going to start with the last thing that you sort of brought up. Robert, and then everybody, let's just dive in and start sinking our teeth into this. My way of thinking of reality, just in general, and this is just my way of thinking of it. I never try and project my beliefs on anyone. I believe everyone's beliefs are sacred, but from my point of view, I kind of see dreaming and lucid dreaming, and again, in line with what everyone sort of said, I didn't even know there was a thing called lucid dreaming. I was doing it for months before I went and looked it up, and then I realized, and I actually thought I was the only one on Earth who had done it, and then I discovered this new thing. which goes to my narcissism, I guess, right? Because I was like, I have discovered a new thing. I am the Christopher Columbus of dreaming, and then I realized, no, not the case, and humility hit me in the face. But basically, I kind of see lucid dreaming as like a snapshot, meaning, you know, sometimes if you're standing there and you don't really know how you're standing, and somebody sort of takes a candid picture of you, and then they show it to you, or they take a picture of anything that you were sort of just lightly thinking about or weren't aware of, and they hold a picture up of it, you go, oh, that's how I stand? Oh man, that's what I was doing? I need to suck my gut in. I need to smile more, or whatever the thing is. I see it as, regardless of what one believes about, you know, lucid dreaming and these kinds of practices, I really see it as a great way to have another view on this reality here. So in other words, if you just do it just for fun, and what you'll discover automatically when you begin a lucid dreaming practice, you will really quickly discover that you look at real life differently. At least I feel like we're all in agreement on that, and everybody I've ever talked to who actively lucid dreams feels that way. So what are your thoughts on, everybody, on what the difference is between, and what you've taken back from your lucid dreams, between this particular slice or segment of reality, or this plane of existence, whatever you want to call it, and the lucid dreaming space, or that reality, or that, you know, that sort of slice of reality? Open for answers from anyone.
You know, for myself personally, I try to get across the idea that the lucid dreamer does not control the dream, neither does, just like a sailor doesn't control the sea. Because if you get past this idea of control, then you start to realize that you're actually involved in a relationship with your larger awareness. And as soon as you have that idea, then you realize that the dream reality is a co-created creation of you and your larger awareness, the lucid dream is. And if you take that to the waking state, I think you'll also see that this waking state, this Maya, is actually the creation of your larger awareness and your ego awareness working in tandem together. So that's how it really helped illuminate what this is all about, this waking world is all about for me.
Sure. So Jen, your thoughts. I mean, like, what do you take back from your dreams, from especially your active, aware, lucid dreams, and how does it help shape the lens through which you look at the waking reality?
I learn a lot from my lucid dreams about being. I used to also, you know, want to fly, want to do this, want to do that, and it became a moment just allow the dream to unfold and to transform me. And I experiment with this a lot. Recently, I came to the experience of me not moving, but the dream moving through me, and the lucid dream moving through me. And then another time, I took the whole lucid dream and I incorporated into myself. Like, I became the whole lucid dreamscape at that moment. So for me, it's a practice of being. It's a very much starts in my heart, so to speak, and then back into the waking reality. I try to do the same practice. So I take all of those things I learn in lucid dreaming, because I wouldn't have thought of it here. Frankly, some of the things just happen over there.
Yeah.
I say over there, but it's not really over there. But some of those realizations occur, and they don't occur in this state of mind. And it's like you bring all these like amazing treasures, and then you apply it to the awakening here. You know?
Sure. So Aaron, thoughts on the state of being? Because I never like getting stuck on terms. So however you guys want to express it, obviously. But the dream state versus the waking state, and the contrast between the two, and what you take back when you compare them.
Yeah. Well, I got to experiment a lot with how the worlds are interconnected right after I had a baby, because I was completely exhausted. My energy was devastated. So I was lucid dreaming all the time because I didn't have the energy to sleep properly. So I was actually experiencing lucid dreaming as a pathology. But I was also so curious and kind of excited about this, because it was like my own lucid lab had extended hours. So I started to experiment with bioremediation in lucid dreaming, or healing the earth, like literally cleaning things up from the dream world, which is obviously not an individual endeavor. This is a collective endeavor, and I still wonder about the applications of it. For example, with fracking, there's no way for us in waking life to restore the mineral content the livelihood of the earth, but can we dream the minerals back into the soil? I don't know, but I think that anything is possible, and I think that our ancestors practiced these curing techniques individually and collectively, so I'm really interested in looking at those.
Fascinating. Okay, I got questions for you, but let me let Nick close this particular part of things out. Nick, thoughts on contrast between and bringing back learning lessons?
So like contrast, I mean, for me, I came from quite a material background, I guess. I was in a religious background as well, which I sort of finished that kind of thing when my mum and dad got divorced, and so there's a lot of like inner despair I had within me, like a lot of dark stuff which I needed to harness and try and get through and everything. So that's, I believe it's kind of like, you know, one of you said lucid dreaming found you, and I think that's kind of what it does. It finds you, and for me, it made me, for the first time ever, once you've done the flying and you can breathe underwater, you can walk through walls, you do all these fantastic things. It makes you really wake up in a different world where you think, wow, we're so much more than just physical form. And, you know, and then you start to push the boundaries even more through setting out some dream objectives. And then you see, well, you know, what can this do? You know, if I face this fear, perhaps, can that bring about change in my waking reality? And then you've got this beautiful, harmonious relationship between the two. And then after so many years of lucid dreaming, I now see it as just one big, beautiful reality. I believe we've been conditioned for many, many years to think that, you know, the old way you say, you know, you go to bed and then you dream, or you just log off for the night. It's like, you know, you go unconscious and that's it. But if you see dreams as just an extension of one's life, I feel that really resonates with the way I like to look at it. And I just see it as one big reality now. So.
Yeah, so you, just to give my take on what I think it is, I think that, and again, this is just my point of view. I never pushing my beliefs on anyone else. I see the dream reality and the waking reality in the shape of this reality. To me, is exactly the same. Like, there is no difference between this reality and the dreaming reality. The only difference is everyone's doing it in tandem. You know, we're all doing it together. So I found that I can actually bend this reality a little bit, but I can only bend it so far without bending other people's realities, right? So to where that somehow those rules are written into this particular part of the program. And I think certain people are able to, especially very charismatic leaders and so forth, are able to get a bunch of people to kind of bend reality together. Like, I never think that certain cults and, well, things that get labeled as cults are necessarily crazy, or different religious followings and things. I think that person might have had a better ability to bend reality a little more than I can, or a lot more, and then they could also get other people to do it with them, and that's what causes and a lot of times, and obviously a lot of bad religions have come out of that. But even still, I think that what's going on is, when I'm in the dream world, I can bend the entire reality. You learn to not bend the entire reality and let some of it happen as you progress, which leads me to my next question. But the only difference is, one is a shared reality where you can't bend the entire thing without infringing on someone else's belief structure and their reality. And in the dream reality, in my opinion, you can just bend it a lot more, which leads me to my question, or the point that I want to bring up. I know when I first started lucid dreaming, I get a lot of people who ask me, really after I was doing it for a long time and they started seeing changes in my life, they'll ask me, like, what's going on with you, dude? Did you read some book? Are you seeing some sort of like coach, or what's going on? I'm like, I say the same thing every single time, because like the difference between me before lucid dreaming and now is profound. Like, if you saw a picture of me, I beat people up for a living basically before. Now I wouldn't even think of doing that at all, right? Just because of how I see what this reality means now. But when I tell people, I say, okay, I'll tell you, but you got to promise not to laugh. They always laugh, or they stifle a laugh. I say it's lucid dreaming. It's a kind of dreaming where you can change the reality inside your dream, and they shake their head or whatever, and I'm like, see, I told you you wouldn't believe me, but that's actually what it is. And the majority of them, because they're curious, once you tell them any new thing, take it a little further. And the ones, I'd say probably about one out of 5 or 1 out of 6 people, if I work with them, I have a couple like tactics and techniques that I use. And I can pretty much tell who's sort of ready to begin lucid dreaming, because I think lucid dreaming does find you. And I hate to say it, because I know a lot of people show up and they're trying to figure out how to lucid dream. You might not be ready yet. There's some stuff you got to do in your life and some things that have to happen to you to maybe get you to the point where lucid dreaming is sort of ready to find you. However, the one out of 5 or 1 out of 6 that so far I've been able to kind of help lucid dream at different levels, they all go through the exact same process. First, if it's dudes, first they're having sex dreams, almost always, right? They're like, that's the first thing that for whatever reason, guys apparently think of. Not to generalize, I don't want to be sexist here, but they go through that, and different people go on meeting different people, and flying is another one. Actually, flying is sort of the universal first thing that everybody does. Then sex dreams for guys and adventures. But then there comes a point where you kind of get past that stuff, and you realize, kind of like a baby, you know? I don't know if you guys have ever seen a baby do this before, but since a lot of you it seems like 3 of you just had children recently, there's this point, I remember my daughter doing it very distinctly, where she would kind of flail her arms randomly about, and then one day, she caught her arm going past her field of vision, and she was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm the one that's doing that. Wait a minute, you know? And then she sat there laughing, I don't know if any of you caught your kids doing that, but I remember very distinctly going, that's like a breakthrough to anything, right? Like that's the experience. You didn't realize that the whole time you could have been controlling that thing. You kind of thought it was happening randomly to you, and then now it's happening for you or because of you, depending upon how you look at it. So the question that I'm actually leading to is, what was your progression with your lucid dreaming? And then take me past flying and sex and just sort of random hedonistic adventures. Everybody, take me through your, I'll actually start back on you, Nick, and then work my way back through. Take me through your progression and where the level you're at. Yeah, from when you started up until now. Take me through your progression and where you're at now.
Sure, okay, so I kind of followed Stephen LaBerge's work, his wonderful book, Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming, and that was like the beginning of kind of the journey, really. And obviously I followed it to the T, going through the intention setting, and obviously he mentioned a few little ideas you could do, like flying and things. And it is very popular, flying, and to be honest, man, I love flying. I still fly today, and it's very, very popular. And I think it's kind of the first thing everyone does, really. You just want to just experience just taking off, because it's also a symbol of pure freedom, you know? You've been given your wings, you know, for the first time. So I think that's why it's so popular. You just want to experiment and just go. Phew. So yeah, I was flying a lot. I did as well. See a few dream ladies. if that's the right thing to say. Yeah. But yeah, and I obviously tried to push the boat a bit by manifesting objects. I tried this great little thing where I wanted to create food and see what it would taste like, to see what the sensations were, and you know, how are these senses connected to my waking senses? And it's incredible what you can really break through to. And I managed to manifest like a shot of lemon juice, and I did that quite a few times because I don't know why, I chose lemon juice, and I just kept concentrating on my hand, like, and then it would just appear. And then I drink it, and it was so sour. But what happened was, when I did it again, the lemon juice now was outside of the glass. It's almost like the more times you try and repeat the same process, it feels to me anyway like the subconscious takes on that and tries, I don't know if it's trying to, I don't know, I can't explain it. It's almost like it's trying to trick you somehow. But the lemon juice was now outside the glass, and then it's like I tried to steer it back into the glass, and I could feel my mind trying to push it back in. So I was kind of training myself throughout this process, and then I tried a bit of Qigong as well, because I was practicing that, and trying to form energy within my hands, and it's quite miraculous. But then it evolved into something greater. I decided to then focus my attention on the dream characters themselves. So then I decided to go into my lucid world, set the intention to find any character I came across, and there's always quite a few characters walking around just following a storyline. And then I go to them and ask them, you know, what do you represent? How are you? You know, and I just ask them normal things and trying to get their reaction. And then I'd wake up, and then I'd write down exactly what their clothing was, their reaction, what did I feel towards that sort of relationship. But then there were these other beings which gave me quite witty answers, and more different than say the other ones that I came across. And it was very strange for me. So then I had this dream which really turned my whole world around. And I was actually trying to get through to the, trying to break through this fear of public speaking. So I decided to create with my mind a like quite a large group of people watching me. It's like 200 people watching me, and I'd be giving this speech, and I'd be fully lucid, and da 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 da. And then I decided to shout out, "Which one of you is from my subconscious mind?" So I shouted that very question, and pretty much 90% of all the characters in the crowd put their hand up.
Wow.
But then it made me think, well, who are the other 10% not putting their hand up? If they're not from my subconscious mind, then where are they from? So there was like 4 or 5 of these beings at the front of the crowd. So then I walked up to them and I said, "So why didn't you put your hand up? You know, why when I asked the question and you're not from my subconscious, why did you not put your hand up?" And she said, "Nick, we are your friends." And then that changed my whole world around. She looked as well very, very different to the other characters. Within their eyes, they're sparkling and more alive. And the intuitive feeling I could feel when standing next to them was like a real conversation like you do in waking reality when you're standing in front of someone. You can feel their presence. Whereas the other beings that I met, usually and questioned for quite some time, I didn't really have that intuitive feeling. So then this opened me up to the world of what I call spirit-guided lucid dreaming, which was the inspiration for the book. So then I just decided to completely try and summon these spirit beings at will within the lucid state. I would just shout out, "Spirit guide, are you there?" And I kind of use that terminology. I know spirit guide has been thrown around quite a lot, and it has kind of been misused, but it's the only thing I can sort of use to sort of interpret the situation I was in. And lo and behold, this one spirit character came along one day and trying to knock me off. He was on a bicycle, and there he was, this old man. And then we had this amazing conversation. I said, "Who are you? You're my spirit guide." And then he says, "Yes, I am." Yeah. And he goes, "Wow, this is amazing." It's just such a breakthrough. And it's a very short kind of like a 20-second conversation of me just being like a little kid in a candy store, you know, jumping up and down. I was ecstatic that I finally made a communication with this being and had real confirmation for the first time within the lucid state of something more than just going about what I've been doing in the past. So that was always like the thing for me, trying to always push the boundaries and see what I could maintain, and this was the biggest breakthrough yet for me. And like I said before, this is the same character that I meet quite often. Not so much now, in all honesty. He's kind of taken the back burner somewhere, but there's other beings that I've met as well. So it just opened me up to more of a wider scope of dream character interaction. Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm going to circle back around. The next question I'm going to ask is single biggest impact that anything that you've learned in your lucid dream that you've brought back out and has obviously transformed any element of your life. So I'm probably going to circle. I'm going to circle back around to you because that's sort of my next thing. Is like, okay, if that's the level that you're at, what did you extract from the dream, and then how did it impact this the waking reality? But I'm going to move on to Jen and ask her what her transition through starting lucid dreaming and to where she's at now. And Jen, how is it different? What's your journey been, and what's sort of the pattern that you went through, and then where are you at now?
Okay, actually lucid dreaming came upon through out-of-body experiences for me. A being appeared into my room while I was awake and opened a portal, and then walked through and picked me out of my body. And I didn't know it. I was 4 or 5, so for me it was just I was feeling very serene, and I could see like my astral body leave my physical body. And he took me, or she took me to gardens around the world, and then it never happened again. Once I was returned to my body, it was like the mystery was planted, and trying to get there again, or to meet that person again, or an angel like I thought it was when I was little, led me to lucid dreaming. Because you know what happens when you do the meditation and prompt yourself to sleep and all these things, and I would, and the side effect was lucid dreaming, which was awesome. So then I began to explore bridging from lucid to astral, and then you know, I practice the waking dream too. So you know, when I open my eyes in the morning, I continue dreaming and trying to what you call bending reality. For me, it's more like dissolve and create. You know, so dissolving the illusion like you would do in a lucid dream, and then trying to create, trying to see how long does it take to create, because here it's a little slower. So if suddenly I'm in a total dream zone, in the waking reality, and I'm thinking, wow, I could create something right now. Like, I'm totally in it. And then I realize that once I give up, like, oh, nothing's happening, it starts happening. Huh. So, and a little bit unexpected, it's a little different than a dream. So that was for me what I bridged from lucid dreaming into my life. The waking dream.
All right, so let me hit one point based on something that you said. You say when you wake up, you keep dreaming. Do you explain that to me a little bit? And one other point too before you answer the question. So your path to lucid dreaming, although at a younger age, was exactly the same as mine in that an experience happened to me that what happened to happen in a dream. I wanted to recreate it, and I worked for like 6 weeks, tried meditation, contemplation, watching high-speed images. I did all these different things. I was like, I could trigger myself back to this, but my desire was so strong to see my mom again and to actually finish the conversation versus just delivering the message that she had for me to give to somebody else. That compulsion, and it's one of the things I try and coach people on when I'm trying to help them lucid dream, is I try and something that is a compulsion, okay, where you can't not. It's like a fuel. I'll bring this back up later, but I'm more curious about the point that you bring about continuing your dream in your waking state. I feel like for me, I don't have any control over that. Like it's just, and if there is a way to control it, then you and I need to have further conversation, or you need to share it right now, come up off the information. But I feel like for me, there's just something that goes on in my brain where when I'm practicing regularly my lucid dreaming, that my mind just is in some other vibrational state where it's almost like I literally can't tell when I wake up and when I can't tell if I just woke up in my dream or if I woke up. It's hard for me to actually distinguish sometimes. But are you able to do that on purpose? Is there a way that you can continue or do a day waking dream? Talk to me about that for a sec.
I think it's just about awareness and perspective. So I wake up and I guess you could say, begin to treat my reality like I would a dream. And slowly throughout the day, it starts to, the solidity starts to dissolve. Synchronicity begins to, hit me over and over and over. And I become more flexible. I begin flowing more. I remove labels. So it's no longer a car, a brush, a computer. I immediately begin to symbolically describe things until it's no longer what it is. And sure. It's like a process of, like I say, dissolving, and then at some point it just hits, and you're just like, whoa, like I'm lucid here. And,
sure, right. So it's similar then. So what you're saying is it's very similar to what I experience, and it's gamma synchrony is what it technically is from a scientific perspective. It's when the theta waves and the beta waves are firing simultaneously. And when you're in lucid dream, your mind automatically goes into gamma wave state, which is a higher frequency than waking beta waves. Not to get all scientific, but I thought I was just going nuts when things started actually changing around me. I realized I could actually sort of affect things. I literally thought, okay, I've been doing this too much. Something's wrong. That's actually when I looked it up and I realized it was a thing, because I thought there was something wrong with me, or like that I was going nuts or something like that. And then I started doing the research on the science, and we focused a lot on the science here at my company. And I realized, no, there's an actual brain state that's going on that still has a level of science can't nail down what it is, but there's an actual brain state that you can read on an EEG where you are, pre the 1990s, the old analog EEG machines couldn't read frequencies above like the 40 hertz level, and then the digital ones, they actually can read above the 40 hertz level, and you can actually see professional athletes go into this when they're competing, musicians listening to music go into a state of gamma synchrony, Buddhist monks, Tibetan dream monks, dream yoga monks, they can go into this state of gamma synchrony. So there's an actual scientific basis for it, but I just wanted to clear it up because I thought maybe there was something like a trick that you could do or like a technique that you could do to do it, but it is very dissolving the way that you're describing it. It's like
I guess it's another avenue. It probably can, if people hooked up, things to my brain at the moment that I'm doing the process, I'm sure there would be brainwave differences because I have done brainwave entrainment. The thing is that when I was astral projecting, I astral project naturally. So after that experience, I astral project every night. And but I wanted to do it myself. I didn't want it to just happen to me, so I would do the brainwave entrainment, audio, and get my body to, you know, to almost be like non-breathing. And my mom would freak out, but
yeah, that would worry a mother.
There is something that does connect with brainwaves and the state of the vibrations, you know.
Sure. So Robert, on to you, sir. What was your path? And I actually know your path because, of course, I read your book. But just for those who haven't been smart enough or fortunate enough to read Robert Wagner's book, first of all, do. Second of all, let's listen and hear his journey. How'd you start? What was the path? And then where are you at right now?
Yeah, so, you know, you start out at the beginning. I was reading Carlos Castaneda back in 1975, and that's where I learned this technique of trying to bind my hands in the dream. And that's what I'd use to become lucidly aware. So at first it was just this big virtual reality. It was a playground of the mind. You know, you could fly around, walk on water, have lucid dream sex, do all these kind of wild things. But I realized also that it was a principled state. You know, you couldn't get too excited or too emotional because you'll pop out of the lucid dream. You can't stare at something fixedly for too long a time, otherwise you'll pop out of the dream. You start to realize, you know, that this isn't chaos, this lucid dream state, dreaming isn't chaos, it's a principled state. And then as I went further, I realized, boy, am I manipulating the dream or am I actually just manipulating my mind, my own mental energy? And so one of the real first breakthroughs that came to me was in 1985. I was part of a lucid dreaming group that back then we would have a lucid dream goal once a month and we would send it out by snail mail. But one month it was find out what the figures in your lucid dream represent. And so I became lucidly aware, went up to this guy and I asked him, excuse me, what do you represent? And all of a sudden, it surprised me because a voice boomed out from above the response. The guy didn't talk to me, a voice boomed out from above. And so at that moment I realized, wait a second, there's something behind the dream. And after that, Max, I started to ignore the dream figures in my lucid dreams, and I would just literally shout out questions to this awareness behind the dream. And so Nick was talking a little bit earlier about meeting a spirit guide in a lucid dream. For me, the spirit guide is ever present. Just ignore the dream figures and conceptually ask, hey, show me something important for me to see. Or hey, let me experience unconditional love. You'll begin to see that there's actually an awareness behind the dream that anyone can interact with. And finally, I decided that I wanted to find out its reality. I wanted to go beyond lucid dreaming. And that's when I started to have some bizarre experiences that I didn't even understand until I heard Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, a Tibetan Buddhist Bon master of dream yoga, talk about where you go beyond lucid dreaming to an experience of the clear light. So for me, it's been a total wild journey, and it's really informed everything I do.
Yeah, me too, for sure. I'm actually, just so you guys know, I'm not just reading text. There's questions coming in from chat, which we'll do shortly. This is how I get them. I just realized just now that I need to put a monitor on the floor so I'm not looking at my phone the whole time. But today it's my phone that's doing it. So let's move to Aaron and hear. Aaron, share the same, conceptually share the same stuff with us, your journey, and then where you're at right now, and what you kind of take back from dreams. I mean, talk me through that process.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't deny any aspects or emotions or impulses of humanity. Sex is great. I definitely have an inner bouncer, too, and I love her. I love all of the aspects of humans because they connect us and we all share in this, and there's no reason to feel bad about having sex in a lucid dream or whatever, you know. For me, a teacher told me, I asked a teacher, I said, do you have any practices that you can recommend, any dream practices? And he said, oh no, don't try to lucid dream. He's like, too strenuous. And I said, but I'm not trying, it's just happening. So he's like, oh, okay, just sit then, just sit. So he was teaching me to just do non-conceptual meditation in lucid dreams. But I think just the sheer availability of lucid dreaming, because it would happen so frequently, and I'm so experimental by nature that I did try sitting, and it was very profound, and I enjoy sitting in waking life and dreaming life. And there was a lot more that I wanted to do. Sex gets boring after a while, And I decided to experiment with lots of ways of interacting because I noticed that something that people want to do when they wake up in a dream is immediately perform some action or change something or like control it. So I was curious of what would happen if I just took a back seat and let the dream direct me. So I would relax and just be totally passive and see what would happen. And I just did all kinds of experiments along these lines. And as I developed as a healer, I guess you would say, or as an acupuncturist, I started working with clients and asking them what they needed when I would see them in lucid dreams for difficult cases. And then they would tell me. And then I started experimenting with cleaning up trash in the dream world. And the dream figure said, you know, like, this is the dream. You don't literally have to pick up trash. I was like, yeah, I get that this is not a very subtle methodology, but the dream world is the real world, and I'm interested in how we can share the effort of making this a good place to be and to experience life. But I think the biggest thing that I've taken away is to not alternate between these Herculean bouts of output and recovery, but just to maintain sort of a more subtle lucidity throughout the dream state and the waking state, and continuous presence seems more far-reaching.
I like something that you just said that nobody's articulated it. No, I've never heard anybody articulate it. I'm sure somebody else may have said it, but passive awareness versus active awareness. You know, active awareness is when you're, you know, really engaged and sort of focusing on doing an activity or focused on whatever your surrounding is, versus just sort of observing. Now, one might ask, well, if you're going to go into a lucid dream and not control any of it, and boy, that word control, we could have a conversation about that all day. But you know, why isn't that just like a regular dream? It's not, because, and this is feedback on this from everybody, but it's not the same thing to me to go into your dream and sit, because I've done the same thing. I actually have better meditations inside my dreams sometimes than I can do in real life for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the noise or the frequencies I'm picking up and they're just not there when I'm sleeping because it's a different dynamic. But it's interesting to go into your dream and become passive, to just sit and watch or just kind of go along, but to be aware that you're doing that, and to do that sort of by choice versus sort of you know, unconsciously and incompetently dreaming. You're sort of consciously dreaming and choosing to be passively aware. But I never heard that phrase before. So I'll answer this next question first, and then I'll let everybody else answer it. What is either the most impactful or the most what's what I'm looking for here? The most tangible thing that you've brought back from a lucid dreaming state, meaning where you did that thing in the dream for a specific effect, or maybe you did it even on accident, but then you brought it back, applied it to your life, and it changed some aspect of your life. Some of you have already actually mentioned some of this. For me, I did this experiment, and now I do it much less like focused, because I understand that the entire experience, it doesn't need to be an acute thing like what I'm about to describe. I've never been very good at darts, and I was curious because, like, exactly what effect it would have on me if I practiced stuff in my dreams. Because once I got past the flying and the sex and that stuff, I started going, how could I, and I guess maybe it's just an offshoot of how my own personality and my own brain works, but I asked myself, what could I practice in here? You know, what things could I get better at? I'm in here anyways. And I could actually focus for whatever reason in a general sense better than I can when I'm awake sometimes. So like, there's not many distractions or something like that. Maybe the reason, but darts was my thing. I actually did a test on myself over the course of about 6 weeks, where I would practice darts when I was in lucid dreaming, and my darts before that were horrible in real life, and then I did in fact improve significantly just from playing darts. And I couldn't tell what part of that was placebo effect, like me just, you know, thinking that maybe I'm going to improve, versus what part of it was actually the action going over and over in my mind. But I can tell you this, I don't remember the exact numbers because it was a couple years ago, but it was something along the lines of all I did was just seeing how many times I could hit throw 10 darts and just see how many times I could hit the bullseye. And before I could hit it maybe 1 out of 10 times, if even that. And after lucid dreaming, I was hitting it more like 3, 4, even 5 times out of 10 times. Now it's probably back down. I don't know what it is. But that's a tangible thing that I brought back that at least confirmed to me in some way that I could harness my lucid dreaming state and then reapply what I learned there back in real life. Now, I've had more impactful stuff than that, but that was a tangible example to where if a scientist studied me, I would have indeed been far worse at darts pre trying that out. But I'm curious, what things have you guys, whether they're really impactful or even if they're very acute, sort of narrow, I practice darts or juggling or whatever the thing was. I'm curious what you guys have brought back from the dream world to the real world in a way that we could talk about sort of tangibly, because I like to make things tangible about this stuff. So let's start back on you, Aaron, and then I'll work my way back through everybody.
Sure. Well, this is probably difficult to measure, but the Chinese classics talk about different organ imbalances and the dream imagery that arises when our body has these imbalances. So sometimes I lucid dream with an eye toward diagnosis, and I found myself in a forest, and I noticed that the foliage was brown and dry and desiccated. So I decided to call upon my inner energy and just pulse life force at this, which in my mind was symbolic of my liver function. So by doing this, I was improving my liver function. And in waking life, maybe that happened, but that's kind of a hard one to measure. And I also did something similar when I had a back injury, and this one is easy to measure, because before the dream, I had severe pain, and after the dream, I had no pain. But again, you have to take my word for it, because I didn't do that for someone else, I did that for myself, and you don't have to believe what I say.
Interesting. So let's go to Jen.
Well, I've also experienced healing, but one of the most tangible things that I could relate is my fear of heights. I asked for that to be healed. And my spirit guides back then, I don't know if I can call them spirit, I guess, yeah, my spirit guides back then, they're very bold. And so every night I would appear in midair with a rope tied around my waist and falling. And I would scream like, ah, but then right before hitting the ground, the rope would, like a bungee thing. So after weeks of this, I would just be like having tea in the air, like, oh, I'm not gonna hit the ground, So eventually, I was just starting to look around at the scenery. Like I stopped freaking out every time I fell because I knew I wasn't gonna hit the ground. And but that was a very interesting, I don't know, tough love kind of way to cure my fear of heights. I've also had.
So are you still cured, or do you battle with it? I mean, did it actually cure it?
Yeah, I could. I don't think I would jump off a plane just because, but I'm okay in heights. I used to not be okay. I used to get this like horrible feeling. And now I live in New York, I've lived in the city and I've been up on skyscrapers. Everything is cool there. But yeah, so it was something that increased. I also asked for psychic abilities to be enhanced, and every night I would go lucid, and I had somebody come in and train me in some aspects, and I kind of feel like you can ask for anything, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's like anything in real life and in your dreams. The limits are actually, aside from the construct itself, which Robert brought up, there's a certain principle set that's going on in there. That all realities are living by. To me, that's actually what makes them a reality. There's some sort of confinement rules that go on in there, and the rules are different. Again, just my beliefs. But your limits are really your imagination. And what's great about lucid dreaming to me is, and I realized this from going through all the flying and the adventures and all that. The thing about lucid dreaming, it's an excellent place to practice and expand your imagination. And as your imagination expands, things become more possible in real life, I think anyways. Just by the act of sort of practicing, it's like if you lift heavy things all the time, you're going to be able to, you're going to be stronger, basically, just from doing the act over and over. Even if you're not, like, working out, you're still going to get stronger just from the resistance. And so practicing lucid dreaming, to me, has everything to do with expanding your imagination and your ability to expand what's possible, So let me move on.
Can I do just one more?
Yeah, sure.
It just popped into my head. I was very shy like Nick, and I wanted to ask for a raise in a job, and I couldn't dare do that. So I practiced going into the office like over and over and over and over again, and I finally did it in real life. So yeah,
I do that one all the time. And I know it's almost like a mental exercise, I'm sure, but just the act of doing it and going in there and having your boss or the person that you're going to have the interaction with, having that thing with them, your mind starts visualizing that that's the way it's going to turn out. Now, I'll be honest and say that sometimes I practice those things and I come try them in real life, and frankly, folks, they don't always turn out that way. But more often than not, they do, because I'm behaving as if that's the way it's going to be. So my actions are putting the other people or the other person in waking life in the state of this is what's about to happen. I think that's my theory with what's going on, because your behavior, behavior is synergistic, it's circular, right? So if I look scowly or shady or whatever, it's going to make you behave a certain way that's then going to maybe make me act even scowlier and shadier. So it's the old thing of behave as if. So let me move on to Robert. What's your biggest single bring back?
Max, as I went deeper, I realized that the dream, to a large extent, and the lucid dream, was a projection of mental energy. And I want to tell you how I played around with this. So we all know about Tai Chi and some of these Eastern martial arts tradition. In a lucid dream, try doing this. Use Tai Chi movements to start to draw the energy, the projected mental energy of the lucid dream back into you. The first night I tried that, I had 4 lucid dreams that night. Because think of it, the dream, what is it? It's something, it's basically a projection of mental energy, but if you draw that energy back into yourself, then you'll realize it and can use it for other pursuits. But you also realize that the energy of your own beliefs and expectations and focus and intent are so important. And that's why you can manipulate that in the waking reality, like you clearly have done, and manifest new things in your life. So playing around with mental energy, I remember the first time I meditated in a lucid dream. To me, meditation is emptying my mind. And so I was sitting there meditating, and as I emptied my mind, it was like someone was ripping away the screen of the imagery in front of me, and brilliant light was shooting through. And it was like, as my mind emptied, the materialization ceased, and what I experienced was basically the awareness behind the dream. So you can play around with this in incredible ways, and you can blow your mind. In fact, as I was mentioning earlier about engaging the awareness behind the dream in a lucid dream, now sometimes when I get in a meditative state during waking reality, I can contact that layer of awareness and reach out to the awareness behind the dream while I'm in the waking state. So if you practice this stuff in the lucid dream state, just like you said, if it's throwing darts or if it's meditating or whatever it is, it's going to be so much easier in waking reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's all kinds of scientific studies about just not even in lucid dreaming, just doing an activity over and over, which I read about after I did it in my dream. I started looking it up. I should just start looking things up ahead of time. Probably could save myself a lot of learning curve, I'm pretty sure. But there's all kinds of studies on doing mental activities over and over, shooting a ball through a basketball hoop, and that actually improving. And the people who, the study I saw was like, I think it was a 1,000-person test group, and the half that practiced in real life did equally as well as the half who didn't even touch a basketball. They just did it inside their minds. To me, the beauty of the lucid dreaming aspect is it's just richer. It's a better place for me to do it. But I also had the same experience you had in one of my meditations, where what you just described is exactly what happened to me. And I've never had that conversation with anybody else. So I got to believe that there's something there that at least the mind is performing some sort of function. But it was, for me, it took a few times of meditating for that to actually happen, to where First I just meditate, and I would meditate just like normal, and nothing really changed because I had in the dream anyways, I had my eyes closed. So it was it turned into more of a auditory sense dream. But then as I did it a few times, about 4 times in, that's what happened exactly where the dream reality started slipping away because I was emptying my mind, and my mind was what was largely helping construct this. I think anyways, I'm always guessing at what it might be. But Nick, I think I know what one of yours is. I don't know if you want to share a different one, but you told me already, and you've told us already in this panel about your fear of public speaking. So aside from public speaking, unless you want to hit that one again, what else?
I'm kind of done with that one actually. I was going to give you another one.
So give me something else, new material.
That's cool. So basically I wanted to share with you transforming me. These nightmares, I used to have these nightmares all the time of, well, it was quite, I remember one of them, it was quite dark. It was like in this dark castle. There was this very grey, dreary kind of look. These 2 sort of witches with black hair and fangs. And they were just pestering me. They were just really, really annoying me and trying to chase me. And I was completely just in a normal dream. I didn't realize that it was a dream. And they just kept, trying to, it's really scary and quite dark. But through that trauma of them chasing me, I then suddenly clicked into lucidity, which was great. It gave me sort of like a trigger, because that can happen as well when you're under a lot of trauma. So now I'm like, oh my God, this is actually a dream. Who are these 2 people? So then I immediately thought, well, they're just, no matter where I go, they're just going to keep following me, these two witches. So I just flew straight up in the air, as far as I could, just really, really fast. And I put both hands together just because, not because I was praying, but because it just made me centered and it made me just believe my innermost. And I was like, just, focusing on that and flying at such an incredible speed, really high. And then I seemed to burst through this other layer. And then the sky changed different colors. It was like more of a brighter color. And these 2 witches, they were long gone, which was great. And there were like these orange clouds, and it was really beautiful. And then there was this little ledge, and I sat on top of this ledge in the clouds. Really, like, there's no other buildings, way above the clouds. And it was a beautiful moment, the sun started shining, and it was like, wow, I really transcended this. But then I had this feeling of, you now have to jump, right? Which is the final test. So again, I put my hands together, and I just thought, well, it's quite far down, but this is it, it's about surrender. So I just trusted that whatever was down there, I could just deal with. So I completely surrendered, and in that moment, it was a very small tilt to the edge of this little ledge, and I went down, and then that was it. I was just gliding down this massive, just through the skies, through the clouds, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful moment. And that was it, and then I ended up in this other realm where there were these other beings that, it was very well-lit kind of surroundings, marble floors, chandeliers, saying, welcome, welcome. It's almost like it was like a test, to see if I could surrender, fight the fear and surrender and just be, and to find my center no matter what. So basically, to answer your question, that's kind of what I brought back the most was, no matter how hard it gets in my life, I can always remember my innermost, my center, and through every type of dark kind of experience that I go through, I can recycle it or transmutate it into something life-changing. I can really overcome these obstacles to better my life.
Excellent. Yeah. So I'm gonna after this, we're gonna do a little Q&A with the people in chat. I'm gonna give you guys some of the questions they have, and then I want to shift towards more of the extraplanar type of stuff because I usually steer away from that. Honestly, we focus a lot on. I do a lot of studies, just my own studies and stuff, and bring people in here and hook them up and coach them and see what the results are and stuff. And but my lucid dreaming journey started with an afterlife experience, and so I just decided that however the universe, God, whatever we want to call this, the higher powers brought a group of people together who I think I could get some pretty profound sort of soundboarding from. So we're going to take some questions from chat. Then I'd like to sort of address what your thoughts are on afterlife experiences, lucid dreams, extraplanar experiences, and connecting and communicating with other planes. But So somebody's actually asking, and I'll let whoever wants to take this ask it, because a lot of times we get into the vernacular and new people don't have the entire vernacular. So somebody's actually asking what a precognitive dream is. So I think, Jen, I think I'll let you actually answer that. They don't know what a precognitive dream is. So could you just define that for them?
Yeah, well, for me, a precognitive dream is a dream that where it happens in real life after you've dreamed it. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm really bad with labels and.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really bad with the categories and things. I've probably messed up a lot of lucid dream terminology.
I like not having terminology. Ludwig Wittgenstein is one. I don't know if you guys know Austrian philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, but his whole philosophical bent is sort of on we form like the in the Middle Ages, people thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, and a student of Wittgenstein's came to him and said, Professor Wittgenstein, weren't people during the Middle Ages stupid for believing that the sun and all the other planets were rotating around the Earth? To which Wittgenstein replied, yes, but what would it have looked like if that were actually the case? Point being, it would have looked exactly the same. And with the language, with the words that we have and the data that we have, a lot of times we form that's how we sort of form our philosophies and our opinions. And so I think a lot of times words get in the way. I mean, in my line of work, I have to do a lot of, I sell and I negotiate contracts and stuff, so I have to be linguistically sort of oriented. But by choice, I'd have an awful lot less words in my life, because I feel like they actually can get in the way of of communicating an idea. But let me try and answer Paco's question there. To me, Paco, and again, I'm probably equally as bad with terminology, but a precognitive dream just sort of means what Jen said, which is to sort of foresee something, to become aware of something ahead of time. So just to answer that question. Now, got another question here, and I think this one's probably good for Aaron. It scrolled down on me. Tiana in chat's asking, what do you think of using herbs for lucid dreaming? Have any of you used them? Which ones would you recommend, and so forth?
I don't think that's the best question for me, because I've never used herbs for lucid dreaming. Although I do work with mugwort. I have certain herbs that I like that happen to have certain dream applications. Like some people say that mugwort protects you in your dream state, or it can help you remember your dreams. But maybe someone else would have.
Oh, okay, cool. Maybe I might be mixing up data in my head. Anybody else on the panel have any input on the use of herbs and which herbs to possibly use?
If I can chime in here, I'd encourage the person to get the book Advanced Lucid Dreaming by Thomas Shushak, which is about various herbs and chemical compounds that might increase your ability to have lucid dreams. You have to pay attention though. Some herbs are all about having vivid dreams, and a vivid dream doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to become consciously aware or realize within the dream that you're dreaming. Okay, so my answer is I never like to recommend specific herbs. I say go do your research, but here's what you should look for. There are two types of memory. Okay, there is reflexive memory, which is to remember something that happened in the past, and then there is the word popped out of my head actually. It's not preflexive, but it's remembering something before it happens. Like in other words, tomorrow when I leave the house, I'm going to take the trash out, and because it's trash day. And then there are certain herbs out there that enhance. I can't remember the word for it, but it's not preflexive, it's a different word, but future memory. Humans are we're fairly weak, but we're stronger at reflexive memory, remembering something that happened in the past versus future memory. And so there are different herbs out there that can actually help you to remember to do something in the future. And I'll send out probably an email to everybody with a list of sites to kind of go look at. But the more you can actually enhance your ability to remember to do something in the future, anchored to an occurrence, the better your chances of lucid dreaming are going to be, because that's actually what you have to do if you want to sort of purposely lucid dream, like become lucid versus sort of having a lucid dream. You have to remember that you're going to do it. You have to remember to do something in your dream. When you see something in your dream, you have to remember to take an action and sort of pre-remember to do something. So in other words, in the example I gave of remembering to take out the trash, if you sort of chain future
memories together. Like, in other words, when I get up tomorrow, I'm going to eat breakfast and I'm going to take the trash out. And in that sort of pre-visioning of taking the trash out in the morning, you think of going out the front door, and then instead you end up going out the back door on your way to work. You're going to forget to take out the trash because you linked it to going out the front door. And in your head, you thought, when I go out the front door, I'm going to remember to grab the trash and go out. So you have to, first of all, you have to set your intentions properly. You have to chain events together in a way that it's most likely that you're going to pre-remember to do it. And then herbs that you want to look up. If you want to have more vivid dreams, like Robert's saying, there are certain herbs and different substances that you can eat and drink that'll help that. But what you actually want is any type of herb or substance that helps with preflexive memory. Which again, preflexive is not the word. I can't think of what the word is right now. So I got to. Anybody else have anything on?
Yeah, just a quick thing.
Yeah, go for it.
I found as well by taking coconut oil, like really nice organic coconut oil for like say half a tablespoon just before bed, or maybe in the morning as well. It really does support memory function as well, and I did find it had a big impact on my dreams.
Oh, I have that.
Really,
Certainly.
yeah, it's really great. You can remember quite a lot of dreams, I find.
All right,
That's just me, so you have to experiment yourself.
Yeah, and actually I got another one too. I don't tell a lot of people this one, but it feels like this person's asking for this. So I had this dream about my mom, and I wanted to get back to the same place where I was at in the dream, and I figured if I walked there, if I went there and I walked down the same path through this park and ended up at this oak tree that was in the dream, I would naturally see my mother again. So I was, in my head, I sort of set myself up to if I could just get back to this park. I tried this for 6 weeks, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 weeks at this point. I've forgotten how long it was, but it was a long time and it was a lot of hard work. The way that I actually ended up having my first intentional lucid dream was some of the things I tried were meditating and contemplating and intention setting and these kinds of things, all of which actually I think added up. Along with the compulsion to find my mom again in the dream. But what finally kicked it in the butt and actually took me over the edge was I got this idea that if I looked at a bunch of pictures on high speed right before I went to bed, like on my way on the TV on my bed before I went to sleep, pictures from when I was young and with my mom, that might get memories of her in my head, and then I would have a dream about her and I could kind of see her again. And while I was looking for the pictures through her stuff, my daughters and I were going through her stuff, her having deceased. I found a bottle of her perfume. My mom only wore one kind of perfume. She was not a variety is the spice of life lady. When I was in, I think third or fourth grade, my sister and I pooled our money, our very young child money together to give our mom a bottle of Charlie Blue. Charlie's a certain kind of perfume. I found a bottle of Charlie Blue in her stuff, and I got the idea because whenever I smell somebody else wearing Charlie Blue, there's only a handful of women on earth that wear this perfume anymore, too, by the way. But if I'm walking through a mall or a grocery store or an airport or whatever, and I smell Charlie Blue, I instantly think of my mother. So I got this idea that I'll take some Charlie Blue and I'll put it on a cloth and put it inside of a box with a hole cut in the front of it and a fan on a 90-minute timer, because I know that you hit REM about 90 minutes. And that actually put me right into the dream, right into the state, and right in the same place again. And then I did research after the fact, in case you're not picking up the pattern here. Mars doesn't doesn't like research anything ahead of time. But and then I realized that the reason for that was that your amygdala, the part of your dream that has all memories, where memories are stored, is directly linked to your olfactory nerve. So that's why typically when you smell a certain smell, you can't help but a thing's popping into your mind. So for me, and that doesn't have too much to do with herbs, but if you're looking for a way, if there is a strong memory that you have about a friend of yours or your grandmother or something like that, there are different ways to use scent, the sense of scent of smell to trigger it too. So that's just a little piece of advice. One more question, and then. Actually, this one segues into the next thing, so let's just take this one. So Jeff is asking, what's the longest lucid dream anybody on the panel has had? What's the longest dream anybody on this panel has had? I mean, like, how long did it feel like, I guess, is really what he's asking.
Well, for me, I've had ones which felt like, because no one can really tell, I mean, to time it and all, but I kind of felt it was like 3 hours sometimes. But that was when I was going through my peaking of techniques, and you know, like I was doing quite well back then, looking after my diet and spending a long time focusing on meditation. So yeah, it felt like 3 hours sometimes, but that's because I managed to recycle or extend is probably a better word, at the end of the lucid dream. And you do that by keeping your awareness. You start to notice that your dreamscape around you starts to degrade and the colors start to fade and it gets a bit darker. So in that moment, that's your time to keep your awareness strong. And what I do, I just say, I'm lucid, I'm in a lucid dream, I'm in a lucid dream, and I keep repeating this over and over again, and then it just transitions into another lucid dream. And if you keep doing this, you can have 4 or 5 lucid dreams back to back, which is quite fascinating. They call that DEILD, which is a dream exit induced lucid dream, which is one of my favorites actually. It's really great.
Wow, that's a good one. I haven't heard that one before. Anybody else? And I can answer after everybody else goes.
I have go ahead.
Well, you know, Mars, there was at the Stanford Sleep Lab, Fariba Boxeron, who was one of the researchers. She watched somebody signal with their eyes that they were consciously aware in the lucid dream for, I think she said, almost 55 minutes.
Wow.
So think of having a continuous lucid dream that was verified by the data for 55 minutes. I mean, that's an epic voyage.
That is. And thank you for giving me something with data. I love data. Because then I always feel a little less crazy, because I think, you know, if there's proof of these things that I think are happening, it always makes me feel a little reassured. I don't know, that's some sort of personality quirk I have. Which one of the ladies was gonna answer there?
Yeah, I usually use Kundalini energy in split awareness. So I am aware of my dreaming body, and I am aware of the lucid dream. At the same time, I begin to tune into my body it's almost like everything begins to fuel. In the beginning, I used to have to do it consciously, like tune into the body, do the energy raising, and you know, transfer it to my dreaming body. And now it's almost like it just happens all at the same time, and I no longer have to do those steps anymore. And I even feel out-of-body experiences through my dreaming body as well. And yeah, I guess I use split awareness and do energy raising and meditation.
So what's the longest it's ever felt like you had a lucid dream?
Like this, it's felt like the whole night. You know, like I go to sleep and immediately, you know, I get conscious, and it just feels like I've been doing that process, or that process happens, and I go from, like I told you, I bridge through multidimensional states of consciousness. So I'll go from OBEs to LD to all other kinds of experiences in astral and dream.
Aaron, thoughts on this? What's the longest you feel like you've had a lucid dream?
Probably about an hour. It's definitely hard to tell because time's so elastic in the dream world, and maybe you can be there for a day and you come back 15 minutes later to your body. But I just think of different ways, and sometimes dream figures help me come up with ways to remain focused in the dream scene. Like one person helped me create a desk, because a desk has an association with focus for me, and that helped me stay in the scene longer. Or you can do the twirling trick where you twirl around. I think that's a pretty well-known one. Or I learned from Nick, the one about just placing your hands together. But anything that sort of increases your awareness of your own presence in the dream can help with that.
Excellent, excellent. So for me, the longest I ever remember, like thinking that this much time has elapsed, because I go back to what Jen and I were talking about, where when I'm practicing all the time, and I don't know if it's just the path that I got to lucid dreaming through, I can't distinguish. I go through for days where I can't tell. I know, because I know when I'm awake and when I'm asleep, but there's very little difference between them, other than how much I can sort of bend reality. But as far as for like tangibly answering the question, because I hate being ambiguous about things, the longest I think that I remember like going, wow, that was long, was probably about 35, 40 minutes that I felt like that if I was thinking about it, because my mind tracks time pretty well. I don't really use alarm clocks or anything to wake up. I for whatever reason, my brain has like a pigeon thing in it. So I actually have some questions here about afterlife stuff. So let's segue into that and then answer the questions, and then we'll wrap up. It's been a great conversation so far. So let's talk about whatever extra planar or really more importantly, what afterlife experiences any of you guys have had in terms of meeting people either who are alive, okay, and meeting them in your dream and then doing something with them and then relating that back into real life. Or more importantly, I actually want to just not shy away from it the way I normally do. Because I typically, other than initiating that I had this dream about my mom and I wanted to get back to it, I don't go into that. Because I'll start crying if I start talking about it all the way through that experience. It's just a really emotional thing for me. But talk me through, this is Mars being very brave today and deciding not to shy away and not to just focus on data and tangible things. Talk me through any afterlife experiences that any of you have had in terms of meeting departed loved ones and so forth, and what you got out of it and how it impacted, you brought it back as well into this life. Let's go ahead and start with actually, whoever wants to jump in first, just jump in, whoever wants to hit this.
I can jump in.
All right, Jen, please.
Well, in the process, in my family, we usually dream about the death that's going to happen, like Aaron mentioned. So there's healing before the death happens. So my sister and I both had a dream that my grandmother was dying. And we got to say goodbye in the dream, actually, which was very symbolic with gold and roses and all these things. And then, then she passed. And shortly after, she contacted both of us. Actually, she was pretty upset because she was showing me construction. And I was here in the States, not in South America. So I called my mother and I'm like, why is my grandmother upset? She's showing me construction. And my mom said, oh, they're renovating her room. So that was kind of like a bridge into actual facts that was happening. And then she also showed me that she was like a statue, like in the cemetery, and she was very happy. And I was like, what's going on? Why is she so happy? And my mom goes, oh, we just bought her a new tombstone, I guess that's what they call it. So she came to my dream to show me that she was very happy that they did that. Very rarely is it spoken. It's like sometimes it is, but mainly she shows me things like symbolically. She'll show me, or she'll embody that message she's trying to give me, and simultaneously to my sister. So we exchange experiences, and it's always been accurate.
It's got to be nice to have a sister who's similar to you, so you don't feel totally alone. Because like for me, now, I've actually created enough people who do this now, like that they have asked me, because a lot of my friends, I'll just admit it, they're very superficial, very materialistic. So they're actually asking me from a practical standpoint of how did I make $1 million on this or that or whatever thing I was doing? How did I buy this car, this house, or whatever? They'll ask me those kinds of things, and and a lot of times, first of all, the extremely materialistic people would never relate, and they never do to me, other than the sadness of my mom, because a lot of them actually knew my mom. But they can't see beyond sort of like, if they could do this thing, how they could bring it back and like buy a better car or whatever. But there's a much deeper thing that goes on, and it must feel nice to not be alone and to be able to actually talk to somebody about it. Because I know for me, I didn't always have anybody to talk to about it. I've created a few now. And now that I'm doing this stuff, I actually get to talk to people like you guys, which means I feel a lot less crazy, and I just want to thank you guys for making me feel a little less nuts. So who wants to take...
Your free flag fly.
Exactly. So who wants to take the next afterlife encounter? Aaron, Roberts? Hit me.
I can if you'd like.
All right, please, Aaron.
Yeah, I have 3 very concise stories. The first is that I had a similar experience to Robert with meditation in the dream, where I got to absorb the content of the dream and tolerate such enormous energy, which I think is valuable because we get to experience this profound level of transformation when we die. So I think practicing metabolizing these tremendous surges of energy by absorbing the dream body prepares us for that from the standpoint of dying and death. And that segues into another story where my great-grandparents came to me in a dream, and I was raised in the South, and they're very Christian people, and I love them very much, and they came into my dream and blessed me in my life and my work, and that meant a lot to me because I come from an animist perspective that is inclusive of, but not exclusively Christian. So it meant a lot to hear from them. And then finally, and this was probably the most profound experience with ancestors, is when I was in Ireland, I would visit the sacred sites of my people, including Newgrange, Brunagoyne, and I would get back to my monk and leave my body immediately because these sites just activated something in my genetic memory. So in this instance, I decided to go back to the mound so that I could go inside and see what was there and the dream body. And I got to meet my family, and I didn't know their faces, but our hearts knew each other, and it was my ancestors, and they were welcoming me back inside this mound. And it was one of these very maternal dream figures who helped me by making a desk for me. Because I said, how can I stay here longer with you? I feel so connected with you, but I don't want to die. So let me stay here, but I don't want to die yet. And I think that was probably an important stipulation. But it had a profound impact on me and my lineage.
Clearly. Thank you for sharing that very, very much. Robert, you want to take?
So Mars, in my book, I talk about how my father passed away in '97, and so I gave him 3 months before I decided to try to find him in a lucid dream, and it was quite interesting. I became lucidly aware. I remember I wanted to find my father who had passed away 3 months earlier, but right when I made that decision, all of the dream figures told me, "Don't do it. You're not ready yet, or it's not time." And so I really listened to the dream figures because sometimes I do worry that people might go on a search before they're really ready or emotionally prepared for it. So I waited, and about 2 or 3 years later, one night I'm having a dream, I see a gold ladder, here comes down this guy, and I realize, oh, it's my dad. Then I think, oh, Dad's dead, so this must be a dream. And the first thing I started to crack up, because he had such a bad haircut, and I thought, this poor guy can't even get a good haircut. Even after death day, what's going on here? But then I thought, my rational mind came in, and I thought, well, wait a second, is this my dad as a projection, as a symbolic projection in the dream? Or is this my dad a spiritual being? So we greeted each other, and then I just looked Dad straight in the eyes, and I said, look, Dad, you're from the land of the dead. When do you think Mom's going to die? And he said, oh, probably in 2 to 6 years. And I said, of what? He said, a heart condition. And then he went on, which really surprised me because my mom had never had any heart problems. And then I asked him a couple other questions, and he told me to please be quiet because he came to tell me things, and then he listed off some things for the family. But in the morning when I woke up, I thought, okay, 23 months later, almost exactly two years later, my mom went to the hospital and almost died of a heart condition. Then 3 years after that, she'd been taking some prescribed medicine that was actually damaging her heart, and she almost died again. But thankfully, she made it through that 2 to 6 year period and continues on. So you can get that kind of verified information, just like in your particular case, where your mom told you about an issue with a friend that you had no knowledge of, and then you bring it to the friend and they go, wow, incredible. So interacting with the deceased in dreams and lucid dreams is really possible, but it helps if you kind of verify it. And the way I do it is by asking questions to see how truly lucid that dream figure is, that spiritual essence is.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually one of the things I want to segue to, but I'm going to let Nick do his thing. But is it the differentiation between, or what's everyone's techniques? Because the thing that worries me about the afterlife stuff and passed on spirits is, I don't know if either A, they're projections of my own mind, or B, they actually are the deceased, or C, they're some other force or entity, which just so you guys know, you can go back and look at any of my videos or look at any of the stuff I've put online or anything I've written. I don't ever actually go into this region because I tend to try and take a data-based approach, and just focus on practical application and stuff. But there's no denying, I'm very concerned whenever I meet certain entities. I'm curious if they are, if they're projection or afterlife connection or some other thing, and the some other thing always makes me nervous because we are going into other zones and realms. But I digress. I want to let Nick talk, and then we can circle back around to that.
Cool. Yeah, it just reminded me of my nan. She actually passed away, I think, about 3 or 4 years ago, and my mum knew that I was getting into lucid dreaming, and she knew that I could summon spirits or summon my spirit guides. So she was like, please, 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 summon grandma, you know, you need to do this. I need to know that she's okay. And I said, sure, I'll try, I'll give it a go. Can't promise anything, but you know. So anyway, I managed to become pretty lucid. I had an astral projection. I came out of my body and I went into this very beautiful astral realm where there were these Roman pillars and the sun was shining and it was incredible, crystal lake waters. And I just shouted out for my nun. I thought, this is a great time. So I went, nun, nun, like that. Just belted it out, really, really loud. And there was a few characters which I thought, is that her? Is that her? But it wasn't. Then in the distance, on this platform with these pillars, she was stood behind one of the pillars. I went up to this figure, and it was her. She was glowing. She looked a lot younger, and she was with a younger girl who was about 25, who was linking her on. So she was like an afterlife chaperone. You know, it's kind of nice. So I figured like she was some kind of angel just looking after her. And her name was Helen, right? So she was like, the younger girl was telling my grandma, you know, Helen, this is your grandson, Nick. He's come to see you. And I was like, oh my God. And I just literally just burst out into tears. I was like just so emotional, more emotional than I've ever been in my whole life. And I just threw my arms around her. And I was bawling my eyes saying, Mom's been, you know, worried about you. She wants to know if you're okay and are you safe? And just by talking about it, I feel like I'm going to cry in a minute. So I'm going to give you the short version.
Yep, I know the feeling, bro.
Yeah, you know how it is, right? But just incredible. She didn't really tell me that much. She just gave me this intuitive feeling. And I think that's to answer the whole paradox between, you know, is it the mind? Where is it from, this figure? Is it a dream character or whatever? The way I worked it out, the way I feel it is, it's an intuitive feeling. It's intuitive, it's beyond the mind, it's beyond the intellect. It's not something that you can just think about and think, okay, so visually I sense that there's a being there. It's more of a feeling from the heart. And it's such an emotional connection that I felt. And there was a telepathic communication between me and my grandma, and she was saying, you know, tell Mum that everything's fine, I'm with Granddad. There's no need to panic, everything's beautiful here. And she just gave me this huge feeling of everything's gonna be okay. And when I told my mum, she was like, yeah, she was like, it was almost like closure for my mum because she kind of left there's a bit of a doorway where it was a bit, I don't know, awkward before she died. So it was like a really beautiful closing for it. And we both just, in the waking life, we both just cried. And it's such a beautiful moment to know that there is an ability that we all can harness, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But yeah.
All right. So no, that was great, dude. I could, you and I will have some separate conversations. Actually, this is a great panel that I hopefully will go on to know and have private conversations with about particular topics that I really want to ask. I'm trying not to be selfish and just ask the stuff that I want to ask for me, stuff that, you know, is kind of global. I'll tell mine. I told part of it, so I won't belabor the original part of the story. So my mom passed away. I was out of town working, and I was out of town. The contract was like a 6-month contract, and she got sick. And she kept going into the hospital, and I would come back every time I would pause work and come back. And my mother's a very practical lady. She said, you know, after about the 3rd time, she'd go in and then she'd come out. She'd go in, she'd come out, and she said, well, just stop coming back. I'm going to be fine. So of course, the one time I don't come back, you know, is when she passed away. And so I felt this like lack of closure, you know, kind of thing, like you were talking about with your mom and grandma. But you know, she passed away, and about 2 weeks after she passed, I found myself in this park in what I consider to be my first lucid dream, because that's where I became aware. And I was with my daughters, who were much younger at the time, and I heard my mom calling me, and you know, it's your mom's voice, so you know it's her voice. And I'm like, I start walking through this park, past these statues and a water fountain, and through a path, and I find her there under this really big oak tree, which has actually gone on to become a big analogy that I use for the conscious unconscious relationship. But she's like, first thing I said when I saw her was, I was like, Mom, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be in heaven or something like that? She goes, yes, but I have something I need you to tell Gail, her friend. And so I said, sure, what is it? She gave me this like a laundry list of stuff, but the biggest thing was it was about how Gail was spending her money, I think out of grief in a lot of ways. She said, you gotta tell her to stop doing that, or this, and this is gonna happen. So I said, sure, and she gave me, I don't know how many people out there who actually lucid dream and how many panelists have ever had this one, but she gave me this hug at the end that was like the epitome of every hug my mother ever gave me, realized in that one moment. There's no way of articulating it with words, but this hug was the most real, honestly, in my life, I believe it's probably the most like singularly real thing that's ever happened, even though it was in a dream. Super duper real. And so anyway, I say, okay, fine, I'll tell Gail, and I walk away, and I end up waking up. I go tell Gail this, and she's like, how did you know that, that was going on? And I'm like, I just told you, Mom told me last night in this dream. And then what happened is, of course, Gail actually didn't listen, and then all the stuff that my mom said would happen about her money in her house and everything all happened, unfortunately. And then I instantly, as soon as I delivered the message, I was like, damn it. I wanted to say some stuff to her, and again, here I have this open loop, So that's when my whole lucid dreaming thing happened, and then I went on this big, long lucid dreaming path, and I got to a point where some stuff happened in my lucid dreams where I actually wanted to stop lucid dreaming for a while, because I was, based on conversations with other people, I was like lucid like 5 out of 7 nights, like a lot, for a long period. And it was, for me anyways, the way I'm sort of OCD, I was having like a negative effects from it. So I just decided, I'm going to stop lucid dreaming. And then I couldn't stop, actually, for a little while. I don't know if anybody's ever run into that before. I couldn't stop because I knew how to do it, and when certain things would happen, I would start, And so it took me a while to actually stop, and then once I stopped, I was just like, I'm not going to lucid dream anymore. Then I waited about 2.5 years, and my mom came to me, because I actually, even though I was lucid dreaming, she never appeared in my dreams, ever. I went back to the park, but she wasn't there, which leads me to believe that some essence of her was actually in that dream, and I could have made a construct version of her, but it wouldn't have actually been her, I think. But she came to me in a dream after a couple years, and she said, because I got into marketing and live broadcasting and stuff because I wanted to share my passion for lucid dreaming, and then I sort of forgot about it as I was studying, but the marketing stuff. And then my mom comes to me in this dream, and she goes, all right, already, okay, here I am, are you gonna, you need to start doing this again, because you need to share this with people, because there are people out there who by you connecting with different people and relating this to them and giving them different ways of thinking about it, that it will actually help them. So stop being so damn selfish, because you're scared, So I started practicing again, and I never got back up to that level that I did in my original sort of burst, but she was right, And since I started back up about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, I guess, I've helped a lot of people actually from doing it. So that's my story, and both of those are afterlife stories. But I can tell you, it has profoundly affected me and my business and the lives of the people that I've helped. So I have one more question before I actually take questions from the chat about the afterlife stuff. How do you guys distinguish? How do you guys distinguish between whether or not if someone is a construct of your own mind, or an actual essence of a real person living or no longer living, and or an entity that isn't meant to be in there? And have any of you had that? Because I know I've had that before. Help me understand how you distinguish. Each of you sort of distinguishes between that connection. Just whoever wants to go.
I'll jump in. Really, you want to
go? Go ahead, Dick. Go ahead, Dick.
Okay.
Just
a quick one. I mean, just 2 things that really stood out for me. Speaking to what I call subconscious manifestations and these other beings, let's just call them other beings. It was within the eyes. That was the main clue for me. With the projections from the subconscious, as I like to call it, their eyes are very glazed over, almost looking through you when you're talking to them. And they're not quite responding, I don't know, not in a very coherent way. It's just a very dead stare, robotic kind of conversation. But these very beings, like I said before, there is a soul behind there. Their eyes are so much more sparkling. The interaction is more of a feeling as opposed to a visual interaction. So there's the feeling, and then there's the eyes, and these are the 2 main things that I use to distinguish the 2. I don't know if anyone else has the same sort of experiences.
Yeah, so go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, actually, Nick, the first time that I was in the presence of what I would describe as a spirit guide, when I looked into his eyes, it was like seeing Earth heaven. It was the expanse. It was like diving into a pool of expansive love. That's all I can describe it as. But when I have had visits from beyond this realm, I usually know when it's a person who's passed, because they will actually dissolve my dream for me. So it's not like I'm lucid and I make it. It's almost like everything just goes away, and suddenly I am in a street and there's a house or there's a door, and they walk through, or I knock and I walk through, or they literally, it's almost like opening the sky, and there's some kind of a portal thing going on beyond my control, so to speak. That's been my experience. Mm-hmm. Knowing when it's what kind of experience.
Mm-hmm. And Robert, you kind of already addressed it, but just to hit it again, could you help distinguish, or help understand how you distinguish?
Yeah, so there's various things you can do, but I think interacting with the dream figures, you can see by their behavior, their conversational ability, their independent agency, you can see how they exist. They might be hollow. If you want to do an experiment in a lucid dream, just shout out, "Now all thought forms must disappear." And oftentimes you'll see, 80% of the dream figures disappear because they're thought forms, they're mental projections. But in some cases, you have semi-autonomous awarenesses within your larger psyche. And I wouldn't necessarily call them spirit guides or anything like that, but they exist independent of your actions, your thoughts. So it's really a complicated area, actually, and we could probably have a whole session just on this topic alone.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron, you got any thoughts on distinguishing, and then just what your view is on projections versus real essences?
I do. I keep excellent records, and I'm not attached to what it is. But I just make sure I write everything down, because a lot of times things can be verified in the future, or even from years in the past. So I have 15 years of dreams written down in an accessible way on my computer, and that's come in handy with verifying facts in waking reality. But in one instance, an ancestor came, and this was before I knew much about my lineage, and he told me his name and his relationship to my grandmother. And I called her up and I said, "This person came to me in my dream and he had some things to say about the family." And she said, "Oh yes, that's my brother." So you can verify things that way. And as far as other types of entities, I've had a lot of dealings with demons for whatever reason, but you can always sort of tell when something is amiss. And usually I'll ask further. I'll be like, "Who are you really?" Because I can tell that their presentation doesn't match their emanation, I guess. And it's been my fearful impulse to sort of obliterate them with love. So that's my default mechanism. I'll just destroy them with love. And I don't think I need to do that. There have been other times when I've just asked, is there something that you need to tell me? So I'm trying to be more curious and let things be.
Were they trying to be like spirit guide imposters, or they were just there?
No, they weren't trying to really even interact with me. They were just present, and I could tell that it was, yeah.
Cool, excellent. And I'm actually going to take you up on your idea, Robert, and do a special one just on this topic, because that's a good idea. So Ka in chat's asking how many of the panelists actually keep a dream journal like what Aaron just referenced. Do all of you? Do any of you?
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. Every single person. How key to you is it that you keep one? And if you want to maintain a good lucid dreaming practice, I mean, how key is that?
Super duper super.
Don't beat around the bush, Jen. Apparently, it's super duper important that you keep a dream journal, and I agree. I actually, it's funny because I'm pretty terrible at actually taking a pen and paper and writing stuff down. For whatever reason, that doesn't work. But typing stuff or speaking it into good old Siri, I love you, Siri. I'm pretty good at that. So I had my developers. I have a team of software developers actually, and I had them build me an app that runs automatically when I wake up. It pops up, and So that's my way of doing it, because I find that I lose track of my dreams. So the answer to your question is how many? All of us. So is the answer. And just in general, I think that you cannot actually have a truly proficient lucid dreaming practice unless you keep a dream journal. I think it's one of the key. I think it might be the key thing, short of like just being ready to lucid dream, which you really kind of can't do too much about that other than sort of prep yourself mentally in terms of setting intentions and understanding, getting your mind right. But dream journal.
There are things that happen when you're either recording it or about to write. There are memories, I don't know, from movement or from thought that actually will come out that you didn't even remember. So it's a very important tool to record it somehow. New things come out all the time when I record. Like I think I'm going to record this dream, and then suddenly it turns out to be this whole other more expanded.
There's something about expressing it. Well, so my thought on that, just to throw this out, is I know from marketing, one of the very first things I ask myself before I go to put together a campaign or something for someone is, whether or not their audience or the audience that's going to be looking at the campaign is linguistically driven or visually driven, because people who are linguistically driven, don't respond to visuals as much. Like that's like an extra thing to them. But people who are visually driven, a lot of times the words can actually get in the way. So something about a dream is in a lot of ways, is a fairly visual, thing. There's conversations and things that you have in there, but it's very visual. A bunch of images kind of happen like a three-dimensional movie. So what Jen just said to me, the thing that goes on is when you start talking about it, if you wait 4 or 5 hours, you don't actually get the same effect. Or if you wait a day or two, you're certainly not going to get the same effect. Is stuff that your words can't remember, because their words tend to be fairly clumsy. As humans, we tend to be. Everybody shares. A person who doesn't have a big vocabulary might be a genius visually. They might be an awesome artist, and they might be able to express something visually in a way that somebody who's smart on paper could never do. So connecting your linguistic parts of your brain with your visual parts of your brain in that way where you're speaking it out loud and turning visual things into words, I think there's something therapeutic just in that act, to where it dredges up things that you didn't even consciously kind of notice. And it can become much more expansive than just what you kind of have in your head. So yes, keep a dream journal. I have a question here from Zoran directly for Robert. Now I think he might be foreign, so I'm gonna have to sort of translate what I think he's saying. He's asking how to find an answer or a solution to a problem, and what you think the best process is for that using lucid dream.
Yeah, there's a lot of great techniques. So what a person could do is intend for the answer to appear when they open a book, when they go into the next room, or whatever. But the important thing is you have to word your question or word your intent exactly. If it's not exact, then you'll have all sorts of strange things come out.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hopefully you got that, Zoran. So anybody else have anything particular on that? Because I'm going to do some final thoughts here. Anybody else on how to find an answer in your lucid dreams?
I always like to write out the actual objective of whatever the mission is 20 times on a piece of paper just before bed.
20 times. Why 20? Why 20 times? Why not?
I don't know. It just kind of fits.
Okay.
But
So
it's a nice time. Yeah, and you just write it like in the present tense, like now. Find out about da-da-da-da-da or something like that. It really just speaks to the subconscious mind, and it really does answer.
Interesting.
I have a thought.
Yeah, one sec, as I want to comment on something that he just said. I think what he just said about putting it in the present tense, that's good that you actually brought that up, because I think that's key. Because it's whatever happens there between the conscious and the unconscious mind, putting it in the present tense makes it a thing that is happening. So it's important to kind of have that, because then it becomes a memory, I think, to go to prospective. That's what it is. It's reflexive and prospective memory. To make it a prospective memory, like something that you're going to do in the future, it associates it a little bit more with the reflective memory. So I think that's good advice. Sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. For me, it's really harnessing the belief that I hold the answers. Really tuning into that inner knowing before approaching the dream or my intention. I really believe that I hold the answers, or that I can, I don't know, realize the answer, create it. So I don't know. It depends which angle you want to see it from, but that for me is the number one ingredient.
So are you saying, Jen, that any answer to any question you think is already somewhere in your unconscious, at the very least, or available through some channel that you can use?
Too.
And
not really, it could, maybe I embody it. If you look at it as a dream, it really depends on where your perspective and point of awareness is for that. Where are you being in order to experience?
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
You could be connected to source, or you could be connected to spirit guides, or you could be connected to your own subconscious intellect. Or I'm not really sure how to explain it, except just that belief.
Yeah, no, it actually makes sense.
I can tune into the answer somehow.
Right, believing. So that has a lot to do with behaving as if, even if on some level, and I am not saying you are, but even if Jen's not correct and she doesn't actually have access to all the answers, just the act of making it so in your mind is actually going to make it more likely to be so.
Right, even whether it's a path or a tool, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So I'm going to ask for final thoughts from everybody. Anybody has any final thoughts on the panel, and then we will wrap this up. I will say this has been. You guys might not realize it because you haven't actually done an interview with me before. Yeah, there are certain things I'd normally stay away from that I kind of went into on this particular broadcast, which was. Well, it was very good for me. I'll just say that. So I got a lot out of it. So final thoughts from anyone, and everyone want to direct people to your websites, please feel free to do that in the video here. But final thoughts, I'm just going to ask everybody for final thoughts. Erin, if you have any final thoughts, drop some knowledge, drop some love.
As far as creative problem solving or your next project or whatever the exact question was, I like to respect our creations as entities in their own right. And I think by doing that, it's sort of out of my hands a little bit more. And I can dance with it as sort of a more independent thing that might want to come to fruition through me, but it takes some of the pressure off. And then another thing is with the dream journal, for me, taking diligent notes from my dreams for years has enabled me to develop a dictionary of portent. So I get a lot more out of my dreams just because I know what my symbols mean, and I can know what could be coming in waking life, and that's been an important part of my dream practice. And if you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website at www.ancestralacupuncture.com, and I've kept a blog about lucid dreaming since 2009 called Lucid Dreaming for the Earth.
LucidDreamingForTheEarth.com?
No, it's a long address. Just Google Lucid Dreaming for the Earth.
You got it. All right, Nick. Nick, final thoughts from you, sir?
Final thoughts. Jerry Springer's final thoughts. Yeah, I just basically want to say to the beginners that are getting into the whole, to the wonderful world of lucid dreaming, just completely immerse yourself into the topic, just read all you can about it. And, this thing will take time. If it doesn't happen in the first week or 2 weeks, that's okay. This is completely normal. But it takes dedication, and if you just dedicate your time to practicing the techniques and believing, like Jen said, is a real part of it, that you can do this. It's not some kind of crazy, holistic, ancient thing. You can totally do this. And yeah, just keep going, and it's amazing once you start, because it's very addictive and wonderful and life-changing. And if you want to hear more about me, I've got loads of techniques. I've got a few books on my website, www.alwayslucid.com, and that's always with a Z. Alwayslucid.com.
All right, alwayslucid.com. Robert, you wanna give us some final thoughts and direct us in whatever materials you have?
Yeah. So this reminds me of the movie The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. The common comment throughout was, no matter where you go, there you are. You'll never understand lucid dreaming without exploring your own beliefs, your own fears, your own ideas, expectations, and concepts to get to the reality of that system. So you have to explore yourself. Lucid dreaming is really an exploration of self with a capital S, whereas out of bodies are an exploration of dimensions across infinity. So if they want to learn more about my work, I want to tell people we've just launched a new website called luciddreammagazine.com, and you can sign up for our free online magazine, The Lucid Dreaming Experience. We've been publishing it for 14 years. Every issue we interview a great lucid dreamer, have articles, and then have readers submitted lucid dreams. People submit dreams of physical healing, emotional healing, and just, even their first lucid dreams. So check it out at luciddreammagazine.com.
Excellent. Jen?
My final thoughts would be to not rest on your laurels and assume you're awake. I always say assume you're asleep and see where you go from there. And really journey into the dream, connect with the dreamer. There is so much within each person, so much more, so much power and so much love. And just go for it adventurously. Yes, there will be fear, and there's always fear with the unknown, but those are just, then you go back a little bit, then you can go forward a little more. There's no rule that says you gotta dive in and find out the secrets to God right now, but at least looking within yourself. And I guess my website is dreampioneers.com, and my personal art site is claroscura.com, which is my last name. Awesome.
So my final thoughts are a bit more simplistic than everybody else's. First of all, and they're maybe more painful. I tell people who come to me, and of course as I'm sort of getting out there more, I'm getting a lot more messages, and people are contacting me, asking if they can come here to Colorado to have me coach them and stuff. And one of the things I tell everybody is not everybody at this moment, I can't just help you lucid dream, because not everybody's ready to do it. And more importantly, not everyone's ready to put the work in that actually goes into doing it. I know for me, it took a compulsion to find my mom again, which I think is probably a huge compulsion. And on top of that, it still took me 5, 6, 7 weeks to even be able to do it. And I wasn't working at that time. I had gotten a little bit of money. I was taking like a year off. The only thing I was doing was the stuff I was doing in Albuquerque when I was away. But other than that, I didn't actually have to work. So I literally just focused on lucid dreaming. Once I decided I wanted to do it, I did it for 6 weeks all day. All I did was think about how I was going to do it. And it took 6 weeks of hard work just to do it again. So I'll say hard work. Don't think that you're going to do this. If A, you have to be ready, and B, you have to be ready to work hard. And the last thing I will say is just A, thank you to all of my guests. And if you guys want to actually know, explore ways of either improving your lucid dreaming practice and or developing your lucid dreaming practice, my first piece of advice, go to all of these people's websites. They have knowledge that you don't have, that I don't have, and go find out who they are and go find out what you can learn from them, because you're here for a reason, okay? All of these people that are on this panel are here for a reason. My reason is to connect them to you, and go explore them would be my advice. And with that, I am going to wish everyone a fine weekend and go ahead and sign off. Thank you everybody for being here. I really appreciate your time. I really deeply do. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
My life is infinitely better, to be completely honest. It feels like a 180. I have more energy, I've been sleeping really well.
My mom and me have been getting along really well, and my sister and I have literally had like one fight since I started lucid dreaming, which is like a total shock to my parents.
We have been having really great.
Yeah.
Well,
Jen?
do you want to tell them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've been having great sex.
I cannot tell you the difference it's made in my life. I mean, I am a new person. I feel so much better about everything.
Everything's changed. I feel a lot happier now. I've lost some weight, almost 20 pounds so far. and I even met someone special.
Now that I view myself differently, I'm attracting men who are more interested in getting to know me.
I deserve to have a good job. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to have a good life. And I didn't feel that way before, and now I do. I feel like I've gained control.
Some of the benefits that I've experienced from lucid dreaming has been that, for one, I know, as I shared before, my husband and I were struggling, or I was struggling with him, and we've really managed to reconnect. So that's been a huge benefit. In addition to that, I feel like I've been able to be more of a mom for Kellen, and I've made a wonderful connection with my daughter.
Well, I got my report card back the other day, and my grades are the best they've been in a long time.
Now, when I can lucid dream, visualize something, then I wake up and it's like it's already almost happened, you know? So the fear of going for it is like reduced because I've already done it in my dreams, if that makes sense.
It's taken the fear out of trying new things, out of being by myself maybe and being introspective, which I totally avoided before. And only by really getting to know myself am I able to be the best person I can be for my family and the people around me. So that's probably the best benefit of all.
I think overall I value the most being less stressed. Largely because that really impacts every facet of my life. So the more stressed I am, the worse home is, the worse school is, the worse everything seems.
What I did see right away was that I felt much more comfortable with myself.
It's the greatest. I'm able to work on myself while flying and visiting all the places that I've always wanted to go, and having, frankly, some of the raunchiest sex that I've ever had in my entire life.
You know, I came in here not really believing, so I do wonder if my skepticism really prevented me from experiencing benefits immediately.
Going into week 3, I was really starting to doubt if I would find success, and when I least expected it, it just clicked for me.
Probably 3 or 4 nights trying before I finally had my first lucid dream. And then after that, it really seemed like it was just like flipping a switch.
Once I got the hang of it, it was just amazing. I mean, it was amazing. I feel amazing, to answer your question.
Again, I just feel that because I could do that in my dream, that I can do it in my life.
I feel like a totally, completely different person.
What's different with you? What did you do? And I tell them it's about lucid dreaming. And there's a lot of people, you know, they look at me like I'm nuts, like I'm hopped up on some type of cocaine or drug, and they're like, this is ridiculous. But then there's some people, they're interested. We get to talking about lucid dreaming, and they believe it because they see it. They see how it's affected me.
It's actually affected the people in my circle. Now they're happier and more positive.
I think we're just, you know, both more pleasant to be around now that we're a lot happier.
Yeah.
They're drawn to my smile, to my energy, and I just am able to, you know, like I said, focus and relax and really put my intention on things.
It's such a better aura for me, and my friends can tell a difference. My mom can tell a difference. People at work.
I think for me, one of the things that allowed me to really buy in fully is the science that's developing as we speak. I mean, all the current work that they've done with fMRIs, showing brain scans, how we actually process information, how the neural pathways are created, neuroplasticity, our ability to change our brain. I think that helped really reinforce, so the more I got into lucid dreaming, the more I got into the science of it and the science of our brains.
That's like I'm solving my problems on my own.
My overall take on lucid dreaming is that it's the best thing out there.
I see myself being a really connected mother to both of my children, because I was worried before that I wasn't going to be able to connect with my daughter. I see myself having a stable and loving relationship with my husband that continues to get better the more that I practice. and I'm excited for him to start. And I think what I'm excited about trying next with lucid dreaming is really digging a little deeper into who I am and what I want to do with my life.
I just feel like I feel good and happy and solid right now, and I don't see how I could not possibly have a really productive and happy future.
I don't even want to say what my future holds because I think it holds things that I can't even conceive.